Welcome to this presentation on the perfectionist mask, the one who tightens the world so nothing can fall apart. You didn't end up this detail-oriented by chance. You became the perfectionist because getting it right kept things from falling apart. And somewhere along the way, staying in control became the only way to feel safe. If you carry the perfectionist mask, you're the one who sees what others miss. You love the details. You notice the details. You hold a high standard. You don't like things done halfway, and you care about doing it right. And from the outside, it looks like excellence, but inside, it feels like nothing is ever quite enough. As you were growing up, a part of you learned that if you got it right, you stay accepted. You grew up believing if I do things the right way, I will be criticized. I have to hold myself to a higher standards than everyone else. Relaxing is dangerous because everything will fall apart. And if I stay disciplined and do it the right way, I'll be okay. These patterns are often running in the background of the person who is the perfectionist. Over time, perfection became safety. Now, these weren't conscious decisions in the beginning. You made survival agreements made under pressure as you were growing up. In psychology, our mask and the ego forms as we learn to survive under pressure with our family. So this personality trait of the perfectionist, the orientation, the ego that you took on the world, you developed under pressure. What looks like discipline is often protection. The pattern of the perfectionist helped you avoid judgment and eventually became how you relate to yourself and your outer world. Origin. Growing up, there was a time when getting it right mattered. Maybe mistakes were pointed out. Maybe expectations were really high from your mom and dad. Maybe approval felt tied to your performance, so your system started to adapt. You learned that if you could refine yourself, you could avoid what felt painful. Over time, you learned to become exact. You adapted to paying attention to details, correcting errors quickly, holding high expectations, staying disciplined. Not because you wanted pressure, but because you learned it was required of you. This gradually became internal. Over time, you learned that mistakes are dangerous, that your worth is tied to how well you perform, that being precise keeps you safe. And here's the reality. Your worth is never tied to what you perform. Your value isn't based on who you are as a son and daughter of God, not by how well you perform, but the mask is always chasing performance, which creates that sense of hypervigilance, anxiety. Over time, this stopped being something you did, and it slowly became who you were. The reinforcement. Then your world began to reward you as a perfectionist. You became known for quality, consistency, and excellence. People trusted your standards, and without realizing it, you learned that perfection equals how you are valued. So these patterns didn't just stay, they became part of your ego, your self-conscious mind, and your identity. Now let's unpack the three levels of the self. We all live and operate at three primary levels of consciousness. You exist and create at three levels of life simultaneously. You have a soul, self-conscious mind, subconscious mind. Now, most people live and create only through their self-conscious mind, operating through their mask, their ego, and survival patterns. In this way, our choices are shaped by safety, validation, and the need for significance. Sovereign orientation and sovereign power emerges when leadership and creativity is aligned with your soul and your deepest purpose. Now, your soul is the source of your imagination, intuition, and sovereign creativity. Your soul is what Carl Jung would call your true self. The self-conscious mind is the one who chooses and the one who lives and runs your life. The subconscious mind powers your creative expression to make it all manifest at a conscious and soul level. So think of your subconscious mind allows creation to happen, your self-conscious mind chooses creation, and your soul, which is awareness, which is your spark, that's the one that actually has the creative power. Your subconscious mind holds the patterns your body learned early on. It runs automatic behaviors, and it also runs your central nervous system, which is how your mask can affect your physical health. And we'll get into that in just a sec. Your subconscious responds without you thinking, and your subconscious mind is power without direction. Now, your subconscious interprets what is happening. It identifies itself as an identity. It creates meaning and stories around your identity, and it justifies your choices as who you are. Your subconscious mind is direction without power. So, whereas your subconscious mind is power without direction, your subconscious mind is direction without power. And these two parts of you should be working together when you really start to build the life, the family, the relationship of your dreams. Now, your soul knows what is true. It is your higher self, it is your true self. Your soul holds your sovereign power. It does not need to perform. Your soul does not need to manage events outside of you for control. Your soul never needs to prove itself. You are I am. You am soul. And you are here to become a co-worker with God. With soul orientation and sovereign power, you can take command of the field. Now, in the Huna tradition, they would say, seek always alignment of the three levels of the self, working in perfect harmony for all life. Seek always alignment of the subconscious, and soul, superconscious, higher self. Seek always alignment of these three levels of yourself, working in harmony for the highest and best good of all life. And the reason it's important to understand this with the mask is you don't want to be living your life through only your mask, your ego. You want to be able to harness your full multidimensional creative power. The mask sits between your subconscious survival patterns and your subconscious ego. It becomes automatic, familiar, and invisible. And what this means is until now, the mask has been making your decisions if you weren't aware of it. The mind has just been justifying them, and your deeper truth, your soul, has been completely overridden. So you think you're choosing, but most of the time you've been reacting. Sovereign power begins when your orientation changes. Your soul leads, your mind is in alignment, your body follows from coherence and regenerative power. This is so amazing. Remember very carefully, you are not your mask. You are a soul awakening what has been underneath your mask the entire time. Current expression. Now, how this shows up. This pattern of the perfectionist looks like over-editing your work, delaying completion, being overly critical of yourself. The perfectionist has the inner critic, always putting yourself down, and struggling to ever feel satisfied. You never feel complete with your day. Internally, the perfectionist is constant pressure, fear of getting it wrong, difficulty relaxing, a sense that you could always do more. Even when it's done, it doesn't feel finished. It's so funny. Completion is one of the most important things for you. Done is fun. Now, at your core, if I get it right, I'm safe. And even deeper for the perfectionist, if it's not perfect, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. There's an oscillating pattern you see here with this mask. Now, here's the distortion. This pattern reshapes your reality. You begin to equate perfection with worth, mistakes with failure, criticism with threat. So instead of expressing yourself freely, you begin controlling everything around you. Instead of completing, you keep refining and you get lost in the trees and you lose sight of the forest. And slowly you lose access to ease and creativity. The health impact. Now, here's how the perfectionist moves into your system: lung tension, digestive rigidity, nervous system tightness, and just that inner tension that doesn't relax. Now, in Chinese medicine, this pattern shows up in the metal element and issues with the lung and large intestine, respiratory, and colon. How this signal shows up in the body. Now, with the perfectionist, there's a sense of holding, restricting, containing. Sometimes you keep everything in your breath, your emotions, your truth, so nothing slips. You narrow what you allow yourself to feel, say, and show, so everything stays controlled. And you carry and manage everything inside, so nothing disrupts the image of being put together. Because perfection requires control, and control requires tension. And here's the integration. Here's what the perfectionist looks like when this mask is unveiled and it's beginning to transformed and redeemed by the light of your soul. And here's the thing. The high standards you hold as a perfectionist are not the problem. It's your relationship to them. The goal is not to lower your standards. The goal is to hold excellence without pressure, to create without the need to control, to feel a sense of completion without creating more mental loops, and never feeling finished with your day or allowing the inner critic to run your life. When perfection is no longer your identity and it becomes your instrument of service, something begins to open. You start to create with that sense of clarity and flow. You complete things without overworking the piece, and you feel a sense of completion. You hold your standards without holding tension. And for the first time, excellence becomes natural, not forced. If you're a leader watching this right now, if you've been holding yourself to impossible standards and carrying the weight of trying to get everything right, then this moment matters because this is not about improving your performance. This is your own rite of passage. If you're a leader watching this and you're in your 40s or 50s, it's time to put the mask down. This is where your power returns, not by removing precision, but by transforming it from identity into instrument, from control into clarity, from pressure into precision, from perfection into truth. And this is why I created the Sovereign Power Path, because awareness alone won't change the mask. Transformation requires a totally new orientation, identity, and architecture in how you live your life and how you lead others through sovereign power, sovereign health, and sovereign leadership. First, we begin with your neurology. On the Sovereign Power Path, we teach you how to release performance-based stress, regulating your nervous system so recovery and power becomes regenerative, restoring safety so your body doesn't need to push so hard beyond your natural circadian rhythms. Second, we focus on biology, rebuilding your organs and adrenal health to regenerate your nervous system the right way. When you're living in this hypervigilance, your adrenals start to become depleted. We want to rebuild that central nervous system and the adrenals with state-of-the-art nutritional and botanical protocols. We also want to support your digestive fire, 5 flavors, to absorb more nutrients from all the food that you eat and drink. And then we want to create a body that can sustain clarity, vitality, and the cultivation of true regenerative power. When you balance this mask, your power becomes regenerative. Psychology. We want to dissolve the identity patterns tied to performance and approval, reclaiming internal authority and command of the field, learning to transform the mask from being your identity to the instrument of serving God. You're serving your purpose, serving your soul. This program is not just more information. It's not more biohacks and supplements. It's a totally new orientation, identity, biology, psychology, and architecture of how you live your life and how you lead. So if you've made it this far, you've already feel the pressure. Explore the Sovereign Power Path. See if this next step is your evolution. Tap the link below to learn more, and I'll see you on the other side.